direction, and call logs would not lie. This is how investigations are done. So if a proper investigation was to be done, these three folks needed to be arrested, including the vehicle that people allege that belongs to the gunman, and which actually belongs to a police officer who has weapon access. And you know why they hide the gun till then? That is simply because the gun belongs to the establishment, state institutions. And we also know very well how you compensated these three officers by sending them to Turkey. That does not solve the problem, because you definitely would, prove this case beyond reasonable doubt that even the state is innocent. No way can the state be innocent in this case. Now, the police told us that they experienced high telephone traffic in Hussein Bojang's phone, but in their entire prosecution, they did not bring in any call log report. They did not bring in any, any other person that he was communicating to, because in simple investigation, if you say that this guy was calling people and he was coordinating and he has co-conspirators, you definitely needed to arrest all the people that he was calling on that, high telephone traffic. Now, the high telephone traffic, was he calling people internationally or nationally? But you people said you were able to determine that there was a high telephone traffic on his phone, but you did not arrest anybody that he was calling. And there is no other person that you brought as his co-conspirator. You can tell that the police are basically lying. So where are the co-conspirators? Nowhere to exist. But your three military officers were calling each other at the same time. They claim to be together, and then these are the same people that said they were chasing after a gunman that they cannot tell if his clothes was white, red, or blue. But then they were chasing after him who was shooting at them, and then they were taking cover on fence line. But then you go to the same military setup, the Major Jallo or whatever, who did the nonsensical, whatever they call, ballistic examination report, the report that does not have a date, and then the chief of the staff had the guts to submit this to the police force as the ballistic examination report. This ballistic examination report writer cannot even tell when he did the report and how long it took him to do the report, but he also claimed that only three bullets came out of the gun. Now, why did he do that? That is to tell you that, okay, the three that killed two and injured one only came from this gun. But now, how about the military men that said that the gunman, when they were pursuing him, was shooting at them? Where do those bullets come from? You shoot two, that means 2 bullets. You wounded one, 3 bullets. And then we were chasing him and he was shooting at us. That's more than 3 now. Where do those bullets come from? Allah will yalbuka tembe. But why did they actually use this, ballistic examination report? That is to hide every possible traceable evidence that the state is complicit in the killing of the cops. That's exactly what they did. The ballistic examination was meant to hide every possible traceable evidence that the state is complicit, and that is why they said it is not a gun that is found within the establishment. That is to say, this gun is one of a kind. That is why the ballistic examiner said he did over 400 ballistic examinations, but this gun is a unique one. Oh, unique. Oh, unique. A unique gun only belongs to Hussein Boja, whom we grew up in the community. Oh, unique. It's from the Casamas rebellion. Oh, unique. He's a rebel. Oh, yes. A rebel actually stays in our community from childhood to date. Rebellion lives in Brufut now. Oh, we have a rebel group in Brufut. Allah wuliyala buka tembe. So you deliberately did this ballistic examination to ensure that you tell the people, to deceive the people again, that the gun is a special one and it is not from the ministry installations of this country. Therefore, it is not our people, to hide your people again. You're just creating seals upon seals to hide your people. But I'll talk okay, Nola, because and then people know what's going on. The rest of the country can be quiet, they can act, they don't care and all that. These same people, these are the reasons why often we ask each other, where were you? You know why we ask each other, where were you? Because when it is time to talk, we don't talk. This disgusting regime killed the cops to frame the United Democratic Party, which is very obvious to every person in that country. Oh, it's a special gun. I have never done a ballistic examination on this type of a gun to just hide that it is not part of the military installation. But the vehicle that you people took photos of and said that vehicle belongs to Usainu Bojang, you realize that the vehicle did not even belong to him. You realize that the vehicle belongs to a police officer who has access to a gun, who is an orderly and has a pistol. Taxi driver. Why didn't you arrest him and question him why his vehicle was with a taxi driver, to do what with a taxi driver when it is not registered as a taxi, and why his vehicle was at this particular spot and then it is being photoed as the one of the assassin, and you know very well that this person has access to a weapon? Why the three military men tell you that they were present at this scene, and these are people? It's like coming Dr. Okoyoko, Borole Karafa, but I can Dr. Kardor Nanyal Alkohani, an ordinary person somewhere. Wala dia. Aliamra Molnyamara. Molnyamama. You can delay this case for 10, 20 years. We will not show up on it unless and until you let this dude go. Because even if you let the dude go, you got to tell the people who really killed the cops. And we know basically that the regime did. So you, the three military officers, someday, just like the junglers, you will come out to tell the truth. Adiyatali, akuyatali, molebe wala fola and wala mutonyat. So, imagine three military officers claiming to be coming from, Palmarima. Now, I told most about Palmarima. Alnata for Sukuta traffic light, according to you people. Now, when you got to Sukuta traffic light, one of you went to buy Afra. Now, one of you went to buy Afra. That was why the other had to call him. Now, the two that were standing together, why did you have to call each other again? Why then did your call log indicate that you were coming from different directions? Is that also a lie? Now, even if that is not the case, the police had told us that they actually use a technology to determine Usainu moving from one place to another here and there. But the police at the time did not know Usainu's phone number. They did not know Usainu. They did not know where he comes from and all that. Where did they fabricate all these lies? But the simplest thing we got to ask is that, why did the police lie? Why did the police lie? Why did you even have to lie about the death of your own men? Ning ayata do kumanta de to ite man kuke man kulonje iwe wulia fala je purmo. And the only witnesses you have to the case are people who have weapon expertise. So it's like your perpetrators are the ones that you turn around and make them your own witnesses. Our gunmen said they chased after a gunman. How about that? Gunmen, three military men, well-trained soldiers, killers, said, oh, they were the ones chasing after a gunman. But they could not get this gunman. All of a sudden, it is just a watchman from nowhere that rustled down this particular gunman. But this watchman also hide this gun. Now, kabiring watchman or a gunman or muna atinna soldier ul manfutaje. And the funniest thing that Ibu Sow told us, the so-called detective Ibu Sow, when they went to pick the gun, before they picked the gun, he had left with the watchman because they needed to get somebody who has some information about it. What did this person have an information on? Because if the watchman said he rustled down this gunman and then he threw the gun somewhere, that means he did all of that him alone. How did he know another person who has some information? And then picking a gun, what has that got to do with, you arrive at a spot where the gun need to be picked. That is more or less the mother weapon. And then you had to leave that because you're going to look for somebody who has some information. Why didn't you bring this person as a witness to the case then, if that person had relevant information? But simply because will be more funniality, because how can you say that you went to decide where before they picked the gun you had already left? Picking a gun for it's just picking a pistol. We were there, but then I left before they picked the gun. You left before they picked the gun to do what? I went with the watchman because there was somebody who had another information. Now, if the watchman was not alone and he knew somebody who has an information, why didn't the watchman and that person actually get this, gunman? Why not? You see all of these contradictions. The watchman even never said he rustled down any gunman. That is a statement from Ibu Sow. So Nying Ibu Sow is another state tool that is used to cover up this whole case. So Albele Dabeje. So you are all part of those conniving criminals in government. So this is basically a case called police cannibalism. Police ole murunta yela mulfa. pour the political establishment do ban the modern ko ke formal play as victims. You think we are dumb? We are not stupid. So this dude that you people, have in custody, wasting his time, wasting his family's time, and then lying about him on a daily basis. Allah will yalla buka tembeno, Allah la botal koto. Yalla du hole nonu jamam. So komi yalla nga bulumadu nga simadu simply because you feel maybe he's poor, he doesn't have, anybody to talk for him. We don't need to be related by blood to speak the truth about our country and about people that we grow up with in the neighborhood. The rest of the people can be silent. We don't care. We don't force nobody to say anything. But the fact of the matter is that it's very clear to every person in that country that something did not go right in this case. Andung muna jarta fanyala police oli wala nata ratol mangkulonje. Ale kontra kudo di dia jila wala kamba. Simply because he is the mastermind of this whole craft. But I'm not all control ko sino po jamu rebelolti. Why didn't you prove to the court that this person is a rebel and he was in the Casamas rebellion? Why didn't you prove to the court that he actually acquired the mother weapon from Casamas? Why didn't you prove to the court that this weapon was actually something that you got, fingerprints of his there? You deliberately said the gun cannot be exposed to, any fingerprint here and there simply because you know the gun belongs to you. It's your own fabrication. You are just trying to hide every traceable evidence because that is not even the murder weapon. It's obvious to all of us. Akwait and tolalako allow bim bandiality because initially you were asked, where is the murder weapon? What did you people say? Oh, we did not say, we recovered any gun. But on the whole, on the day of the incident, one of your witnesses said on that same day, was when he picked the gun. Now, this person that picked the gun and hide the gun, and then you said you only picked it after 10 days. That is concealment. So you cannot even serve as just a witness, but we are going to prosecute you for what you did. Because yentola police all the fanyang kono. Alto ke la bandiya na la tapale ya na la tajinte ya ni joya ni hasidi alo bit. So these 3 military officers we are talking about knew everything about this case because they are co-conspirators in the case. Because in a professional investigation of a case like this, with a magnitude like this, first, let's categorize the people that would be. Now, if you look at the traffic light, you have people selling stuff. Of course, those are business vendors. You have people who are just commuters. Okay, those are just commuters. But then in the midst of all these people, who are going to be the prime suspect? Okay, there are 3 military officers. Okay, what are the characteristics of these 3 military officers? They have weapon expertise. Okay, they have probably access to weapon. Okay, now why were they at this particular scene at this particular time? Okay, that is something questionable. That actually should raise an alarm. Now they claim that they were chasing after this gunman. Okay, but what did the gunman wear? They cannot tell. But how can you be chasing somebody you cannot even tell if he was, a ghost or something? Because you cannot even tell the clothing of this person. That is something questionable. Then the 3 military officers, because of their presence at this particular scene at this particular time, needed to be arrested and interrogated. But what did they do? They turn around to say those are their witnesses. Atole kije, kara police olofa. So this is police cannibalism. Kamurung kalfong la mol domo. Abuko dingol min muta dingol wulu suo ko ne murunda ko you are eating them. Al pare dal ka kada wuli ala modul la ka. Alta boya la mo kan jangal fangol mal fangol la bualti. And the thing that, the longer you drag this case is going to dwindle down and people are going to be silent about it. It will never happen. We will continue to talk about it and we will continue to expose everything that you people did. Because the 3 military officers calling each other alone sends a big signal that something did not go right here. And because of their military, expertise, to be at that particular crime scene, at that particular spot, and time, that tells you that something did not go right here. And to turn around to say that they were witnesses to the incident and they were chasing after a gunman whom they cannot even tell what kind of clothes he wear, where he comes from, or at what spot he actually stood to actually shoot and all that. But then they chased this person who was firing at them, and then they were taking cover on fence lines. But from what distance could somebody shoot a pistol at you and then you take cover on fence line? But you could see that he was turning, or you were only hearing the sound. You were only going to listen to the sound of the pistol. But you could see the person turn to shoot you and then you have to take cover before he actually fires. But then you cannot even tell. For But who actually pursues a gunman in the middle of the night? Gambia lo di boko no ba keno la nyadi. Fanyaman tamdua. But this is a gunman who has a gun and then was running, but a watchman could wrestle him down, according to the police. Look, but on top of it, after the defense going to get the call logs of these people, we realized they were calling each other. So that is a coordination. So comparatively to the case of the Assis guy they killed in Senegal, you can tell that his close associates whom were actually in contact with him, who actually went to his apartment and their locations were found to be within his apartment, were all arrested. So why is this case so different in the Gambia? Why was the police officer's vehicle the one that everybody was sending photos of and then claiming that that is the vehicle of the the assassin? All of a sudden, he all claimed that was with a taxi driver. But for police la private vehicle, they give them to taxi drivers to use them as taxis when they are not registered as taxis and not painted as taxis, or when they still have number plates of private vehicles. What was this vehicle doing at this particular spot? Alia wulia sifa be lando ke kam for no reason. Alia wulia sifa be la kam. Ko useno le jimita jangino awuluda. Almo do na fonya follow. What is all that about? What is all that about? And then the silence of the presidency on this case up till now tells about the complicity of the government. But then it's the government spokesperson who came and lied to the entire nation, and he still had the guts to sit there as the government spokesperson. Someday, Sankara, you would basically tell the public about the lies and fabrications you actually put against this young man, because anytime you're going to sue this government, we will have special, issues on you as well. You think you're going to escape all of this like that? Even if it would cost people to take you to international courts or wherever, where we know justice will be served, we will do it. Even if it is going to be to the last penny that we will drop on it, we will do exactly that. So you cannot just kill people who actually leave their homes to go and serve the country for no reason, and then turn around and you want to put all of that on somebody who knows nothing about it. And it is evident to all of you that he knew nothing about it, and then after your investigation you realize that he knew nothing about it, and everything you try to do is because so what can we do? Let's just put it on him at all costs, and then make sure that we prosecute that single narrative and incarcerate him on single narrative, and maybe the next minute the president can come and say, oh no, we pardon him just to save your souls. No, it will not happen. You will tell us who really killed the cops. So the focus today is on these 3 military officers and the police vehicle that was at the crime scene at that night, and that was photoed by people and said this is the vehicle of the assassin, and that vehicle belongs to a man who has access to a weapon. Why was his vehicle there, and was he the individual who was there? Why didn't the police arrest this particular police officer and investigate him, and of course use his phone to determine if he was at this particular spot on that day or not? They will not do it. You know why? Because they are part of the plan. They are all part of the game. They are all criminals in our uniform. So when the perpetrators turn to be the witnesses, that is exactly how the case is going to. But what me from another, they cannot tell, because you put it on somebody who knew nothing about it. You cannot even tell if he wore, a haftan, or whether he wore, a jean, or whether he wore a camouflage. And then other people's claim was that no, Amarie camouflage good. So if we put on, a military camouflage, trousers, that now tells you that where are these 3 military officers? So that also raised the question that these 3 military officers need to be investigated. But I'm not now manke. Now, why did these same 3 military officers, why were they actually sent to Turkey? Is that a compensation for them? We know basically how the junglers used to operate. So Masakunda la Moronta ye fangol la police fa la Moronta police fa, they turn around to play victim and then want to put it on somebody they know very well did not do it, because their whole intention from start was to ban the United Democratic Party. And that is why they said this guy was the guy in hoodie But when they realize that it is not the guy in hoodie, they turn around with mama stories and fabrication to say, oh no, we got somebody in Kazama. But then the police leadership told us that they use codes to get this person. Now, can the police leadership get the codes and tell us, these 3 military officers, where they were coming from, how they actually meet at this particular spot, how they were able to chase after this gunman, and how did the gunman escape all of these 3? Yet for the ballistic examination report to say that only 3 bullets came out of the gun, when these military officers told us that the gunman was firing at them. So the ballistic examiner, the 3 military officers, the vehicle of the police officer, Ibu So, DIG So, Commissioner So, and so on and so forth, Pate Jallo, you all need to be arrested and investigated in a serious country. In a serious country, DIG So, Ibu So, Pate Jallo, Commissioner So, the 3 military officers plus the orderly who owns that vehicle that was found at the crime scene, all of you need to be arrested and investigated. But you know why that will not happen? Because it's a criminal enterprise instituted by the government to kill the cops, to frame the United Democratic Party with their intention to ban the United Democratic Party, because the president, who has no intentions to leave power, thought that the UDP is his main problem. Very evident. Wale atinna ya be double kala UDP kan atol le control ale wul yalla min law senu bojanka wala lan na tambita al ko nyabe do ko le brikama area council fanyalo modi al ko nyako be UDP la event fanyalo modi ako he was the guy in hoodie fanyalo modi al ko rebelo lo madi mu fanyalde al ko he got the weapon from Casamance mu fanyalde al ko he confessed to the mother kale ko al kam bulol le sidi cheno al kam bute fanyalo modi. You turn around, you said, okay, at that crime scene, but in a public environment like that, you said, atole samara sin no mintara wodla, kamera ko mukilinda mala na rabenta wodla, ala samara sin no mintara wodla, walong ale boots mintara usenu bojanyon la suokono, when you're fanyala be kidding. How on earth could you tell us that at that crime scene, as crowded as that place was, you just look at the entire ground of that place, and then you can only see one, footprints, and that footprint belongs to Usenu Bojang. How? Even if you tell this to a 3-year-old, would say, look, something did not go right here. In a place where over hundreds of people meet, but you just look at one particular, footprint, and you say that belongs to Usenu Bojang, and because you picked a particular shoe from their house, does it make any sense at all? How would that make any sense to anybody? So that means that you have your single narrative, and your entire intention is to prosecute that single narrative and to incarcerate that single narrative to cover up your own criminal activities, which will not happen. You can continue to keep this dude in prison for as long as you want, but the public and everybody in the country knew very well that the government masterminded the killing of the cops, and it is just police cannibalism. And the police leadership would definitely face the consequences of these actions, because in the first place, that particular spot at the Sukuta traffic light, it is not a paramilitary checkpoint. Now, you can install a paramilitary checkpoint after hours, but then within the period of heavy traffic, what were the paramilitary doing there? Why did you put them there, station them there within those periods? Why the name Pate Jallo station at this particular spot? When the UDP at the same time were complaining about the other Pate Jallo you've just promoted recently, and then to make it look like a coincidence, and then what were the 3 military officers doing there? That is not a coincidence. What was a police vehicle doing there belonging to a police officer who has access to a weapon? That also is a coincidence. All of these things you want to tell us are all coincidence. And you turn around and tell us that Usenu Bojang was at the UDP event with a gun, and then he's a rebel, which are all fabrications and lies. So that now tells you that all of this is not a coincidence. It's a fabricated script by the system. I thank God I didn't join the police, because if you're in that system, you cannot even talk about it. So most of you in the service know very well that something did not go right, and then we are out there to speak for our own brothers who are in the force, because any of them could have been killed in this manner simply because of your stupid interest in politics. And you expect everybody to be silent about it? In a proper investigation, you don't even need to be a police officer to understand that. Okay, we look at the people that were at this particular scene. The 3 military officers were there. They are weapon experts. Therefore, that sends a signal that these 3 officers, we need to arrest them first. We need to question them. Oh, the vehicle that was actually pictured there, the number plate belongs to a police officer who has access to a gun, who is an orderly. Therefore, we need to arrest him because he has access to a weapon and he definitely, knows how to fire the weapon. He has a firearm. Why didn't you arrest him? And on simple police report writing, it needs to be concise, it needs to be complete, it needs to be correct. Why then did you lie? Why did you tell us first Usain Bojang is a rebel when we grow up with him in the community? He's not a rebel. So that's the first lie. You told us he worked in Brikama Area Council. Another lie. The government with its entire machinery and workforce, wherein anything you want to know in government, you can get it within a speed of time. You could not even go to Brikama Area Council to confirm that. But you quickly told us that Usain Bojang works in Brikama Area Council. What was the intention of Usain Bojang works in Brikama Area Council? To put it on the UDP because we know the chairman of Brikama Area Council is from the United Democratic Party. What was the intention of saying that Usain Bojang was at the UDP court case in Banjul with a gun? To put it on the United Democratic Party, that was your intention. Why did you arrest Bayo Sonko and Sabali? Because these are the people that were complaining about Pate Jallo and his excesses. Why then did another Pate Jallo die? It's not a coincidence. It was a planned murder. It was a planned assassination by the regime for politics. And you cannot change that fact. Even if that was not the case, why didn't you follow the proper investigation channels? All of a sudden, Mama told you that, oh yeah, this guy who is actually looking for, solutions to his problem with a white person, is the one who told us that he killed the cop. But in a proper policing system, in a proper investigation and a proper prosecution, the person that reported the case to you said she had recorded this person, and the recordings are with you. But after you thoroughly look at this, recordings, you realize that there is nothing incriminating in it. What did you do? You came to the court and lied that the audio that Mama recorded, she doesn't have it no more because her phone was damaged. When Mama in turn told us that no, she did not have it simply because she deleted her WhatsApp and removed her SIM card from her phone. You see the contradiction from the state? So everything about this case is just a state masterminded case, and they cannot shy away from it. Al talfon kana dinola je, alman sene aje. So that is just the plain fact around it. Now, if really the police have no hand in the killing of their own men, why did they lie? Can a police officer get the guts and knock at the door of the DIG and ask him, what the fuck was that lie about? None of you will do that because it's risky to do so, right? And you can be basically, considered for treason. But you all know that something did not go right in this case. You all know that it could be any one of you that they could have just killed out there and nothing would happen. But of course, in a case like this, we know that they will not use the senior men to kill them. They would use the most junior that people don't even know about. You just use people's little kids who basically their parents depend on, and then you kill them for nothing. And then turn around and say, oh yeah, you want to arrest UDP folks because your intention was basically to ban the United Democratic Party. People who know me know that I have no business with the United Democratic Party. Besides, I don't even need to say that. I can have business with anybody, and that is my business. That is my business. But you don't really, get our brother and then put him in prison and then turn around and say, oh, he was a rebel. Rebel from where? Can you prove that? He works in Brikama Area Council. Can you prove it? He was at the UDP court case in Banjul. Can you prove it? He was hired to kill by who? Can you prove it? Oh, there was heavy telephone traffic between him and his co-conspirators. You cannot even bring his call log to court. Why are you hiding his phones? Because the boy's phones already cleared him out of the case. Because with all the messages he was sending that same night, this dude was nowhere close to, that traffic light, whatever. And then after the police realizing all that, that is why they deliberately took his phones away from him, and they never brought the phones to the investigation, and they never brought the phones to the court. And we know Ibuso, we've been told that you formatted those phones, forcing the guy to put up his password, and then you format the phone because you don't want, whatever he was doing to actually come out. Nigga, you're just a young man, bro. Beneka police do that. You are just an ordinary asshole out there. Simply because you wear the uniform, you can connive with the, the criminals in government, and you think you're definitely doing best for yourself. Nigga, that day would come when you and us would face each other and tell the truth to each other. And it take us what a tailor J. A young man like you thinking that you can actually incarcerate another innocent young man without shame, without any consent, and you think you can go home and sleep? Are you the only people in the police force? Are you the only people in the police force? This nonsense tribalism is what is killing this country. And then when we jump, we say no, it's one side or whatever. It's every aspect of society. Your negative ethnicity is so disgusting to a point that nobody understands what's going on in that country. And then you think just among yourself you can just connive and then kill people and turn around and then put it on another person without any justified reasons? Now, everything that Sankare said, we proved to you that are all lies. And Sankare himself distanced himself from his statement and said everything I said was given to me by the police. Now, everything that the police had said in this case is a complete lie about the death of their own men. Now, when the police staged their own press conference, Office of the President asked them to immediately put a stop to it. Why? Because they were exposing themselves to the public. Now, after everything they said in their press conferences and Sankare on West Coast, they did not bring a single of all those statements to the courts. But they said there was heavy telephone traffic in Oceano Bojang's phone. They did not bring the phones to court. They did not bring call logs. They did not bring printout. They did not bring co-conspirators. They did not bring the vehicle that they said an escape vehicle was provided for him into the thick forest of Casamas just for him to find himself in a garage crying about a white person. Does that make any sense to anybody? Even the recorded incriminating audio of Mama, they refused to bring it to court on claims that it is lost. So what else does this government got to tell us? Someday, these 3 military officers, fortunately, you people came out to testify as witnesses when you know basically that you are potential perpetrators of this crime. You are people that are more or less, highly suspected personnel because you have weapon expertise, and then you were basically at this crime scene on that day, and then your lies were uncovered because some of your lies do not even tally, because when you said that you were pursuing the gunman and then he was shooting at you, but then your ballistic examination, which is another fabrication to ensure that you did not mention a weapon that is within the Gambian armed forces, to say that it is a rear type which is not within the military installation, so that people can say, oh no, it's not from our military and we cannot suspect the military officers. But it is the same you people that sat at your press conference and told us that no gun was recovered. But it's the same you that brought in a witness that said that on the day of the incident was when he found the gun. And he informed his boss, and his boss told him not to tell anybody and to hide the gun somewhere. He will arrange for it to be picked. Why does his boss have to arrange for the gun to be picked? Why does his boss have to arrange for the gun to be picked? Y'all all think people are crazy? His boss has no hand in it. His boss knew nothing about the case. Oh, I pursued somebody and then he threw a gun at me. Call the police, let them come, because already it's obvious to everybody that people were killed. But you know why? All of those are just fabrications. It's like a movie they're trying to play on us, which will not work, or which has not worked. And that is why DIG So cannot go even after retiring, giving a contract, and then other people are asked to go home because the police now have a policy that they're not going to extend other people's contract. But DIG So will be giving a contract because he masterminded the killing of the cops for the regime. So the focus is on these 3 military officers. What were they doing at this particular, crime scene at that particular time? And how comes they were together at the same time calling each other for what? So their call printouts were brought to court. And it's left to the court to determine that. And the simple thing, when I listen to some people, folks that you know and respect, and all of a sudden, because they want to support the regime by all means, because gomunyu darab, yakarun darab, they think life is all about dogo, telling you, oh no, this case is in court. Who cares about the case in court? Who cares about the case in court? Nyata case nothing in court, but some of you would jump every day and talk about them, or people will go and gather there until even the judge or the prosecution put in a model for it, and it was always difficult for even the vehicles to pass. The police have to be there with tear gas throwing at people. You people did not know that was a court case. You did not know that case was in court, which was more or less a more complicated and more complex case than this one that we can easily tell that something did not go right, and you all want to be silent about it, and you want to compel silence on people. if you won't talk about it, shut up. Don't tell us rubbish, because we will not take it from you. We will not take it, and you know very well that we will not take it, because there is nothing that you people can say that we cannot. There is nothing you know that people don't know. So respect yourself and stay away from whatever you want to stay away with. You can go and defend this government as long as you want, but all we know is the government killed the cops and they wanted to frame the United Democratic Party. When they failed in that quest, they turned around to tell a brother that we live in the same community with for years and went to school with, to jump and say he's a rebel. With all those lies, but they cannot bring their 3 military officers who were at this scene claiming that they were chasing after this gunman. And why do they need to compensate these officers with a trip to Turkey? Why do they need to compensate the DIG with an additional contract, when Landing Bojang, more effective, more efficient, more determined, more energetic at this stage of his life, was asked to go home, and many other people in the police force? That already tell you that this man is like he's sleepy, he's tired. But not just tired because his conscience is not clear. The man messed up his over 40-50 years career in the killing of the cops. So in short, what we are trying to say here is that the 3 military officers that claim to be coming from Palmarima, at the same time calling each other from the call logs, the defense had printed, that already indicated that these people were calling each other and coordinating, and some were actually coming from, Old Yundum End, not really Palmarima as they claim, which were all lies. So you cannot tell me that, the call logs were all lies. Evidently, call logs do not lie. And then if you also tell us that Hussein was having, a heavy telephone traffic, bring his call logs to prove that. They refused to do so. You told us that Hussein, now the 3 military officers confirmed they were at the scene. The vehicle of the police officer was seen at the scene, and then it was called the vehicle of the assassin that you people thought was Hussein Obojang's vehicle. Now all of that proof that it belongs to a police officer who has access to a gun. The 3 military officers were present at the scene, but then instead of going to through the call logs of Hussein Obojang to confirm if he was within that vicinity, you refused to do that because Hussein was not at any time during that period at this incident area. So you see your fabrications. So this is a cannibalism case that the police within its own, establishment criminally connived, take the youngest or probably, police constables who basically do not even have any ranks yet, who are just from recruitment. But because they have a similar name as Pate Jallo, and UDP was complaining about Pate Jallo, they said, let's put them up at a particular spot. Let's go there and kill them, and then put it on the United Democratic Party. Because anybody who has sense, when you are told that, hey, boy, your police will fajana, UDP the police will complain that Momo is sense of the Gambian, boy, why guy you? And we know very well that even at the prison police in Mile 2 somewhere already jubilating, hey, say wonge mudale. I'm a man like, I have my issues with the United Democratic. Most of their guys, we don't get along, but they are my dudes. But imagine how evil people can be in that country. That politics can work to them that way. But generally, when that case came out, what came to every reasonable mind would be, wow, that's extreme. How could somebody do that? And we know, if we are to be honest, all our minds went to the United Democratic Party. So it was staged in that way so that it can focus the minds on the United Democratic Party. But it was done, mediocrely, because the people that did it are not criminally smart, and that is why they've been exposed. So the regime has started in that. And, when I see people talk about Gambia, new constitution here and there, it's better not to have a new constitution in principle than actually settle for something that is a mediocre document simply because we want to satisfy one so-called person who wants to rule for 20 years. And people jump and say Barrow is a simple man. Barrow is not a simple man. Barrow is a very complex and complicated person from start who had no intentions to leave power. Greed has consumed that man even from the beginning of it, because somebody who was supposed to stay for 3 years, you neglected and betrayed that 3 years. And then we developed a 2020 draft that said, okay, your this first time, which is a 5-year, would be included. So you can rule for only 10 years. What is wrong with that? If you are a true Democrat and you believe in your words and your principles, even if they put in a retrospective clause, I wouldn't care. I'll be like, you know what, 10 years, let me go my way. Besides, I should not rule, or no one should rule beyond 10 years, so it's okay. Let it be whatever. But you oppose that because you don't want to rule for just 10 years, and then now you want to impose your 2024, constitution on people, or what draft on people, so that you can rule for 20 years. UDP rejected on principle. And that is basically what is important. That is what any genuine and reasonable person will go. And in 1997, Lebatulaji Barrow can rule for 20, 30, 50 years if he wants. We don't care. But the fact of the matter is that don't accept a document simply because you want a change or you want somebody to rule just for 20 years. Reject it in principle. Even if you lose votes for it, reject it in principle. You don't live just, if you don't stand for anything, you fall for, whatever comes your way. Like some of these so-called politicians, many along you turn around again to be insulting yourself to say, I was a novice, I was hungry for a constitution. You don't believe in anything. Like everything I'm saying here today, tomorrow I turn around and say, no, I was a novice at that time. How dumb would I even look in the eyes of the public? Or everything I'm saying here today, tomorrow I just go and join the regime and say, oh yeah, what I was saying, it was because, I was novice at my age, with an extensive travel around the world, with an extensive experience and education. I still come back and say, oh yeah, it. But palaso la jarta wol doli wala. But that does not mean that is basically how Gambians are. No. Palaso la jarta wala wala malla fenna. But we know that people who have principles and believe in something will not support this nonsensical document that we call a constitution. When this government was coming into place, it was supposed to last for 3 years. We've known that on both sides, people make all those mistakes here and there, or they deliberately say, no, the regime is going to stay for 5 years. And people deliberately refuse to vote for certain parties because of some of their utterances during that period. But another 3 years, more na konye no kana ke 3 years, nyatara amataranto, mafala moro ni mol kamenda nyina lambe barala wala. Bara tareto la because imari mo hasidia la fari son no mokono. You betrayal le fari son no mokono. You never intended to leave power. That was just the honest opinion. And then we said, okay, 5 years, let's have a constitution that includes this 5 years, and then you can only have 2 terms. And look, and you came in to say you are going to bring in democracy in the Gambia, where term limits is respected, where fundamental rights are respected here and there, but then you turn around, kill the police officers, and now you want to rule for 20 years. Because they will do anything and everything to remain in power, including even killing folks. Because if you can kill people to ban the United Democratic Party, what is the intention? These are my biggest opposition. So for me to remain in power, and you did not just kill ordinary people, but people in our uniform, in our national colors, who are doing everything they could for the country on a daily basis. And then you all want people to say, oh, the case is in court. Even the judge knew something is not right here. As long as you people want to keep Hussein Bojang in prison, we will continue to talk about this case until then. Because we know basically that we went to school with the dude and he is no rebel, which is very obvious to all of you. And you got his phones, you deliberately refused to bring them to court. You refused to bring his, call logs and printouts that you people claim that that was what you were monitoring and then following him from one point to another, which you know that is a complete fabrication and a complete lie. But then it was during the past era that when you lie to a public officer, you are prosecuted for it. Is that not even a crime to lie to the public? You are going to arrest those people. When the government turns around and lie to the public, you want the public to be silent about it. And you think everybody's dumb and stupid? No, it doesn't work like that. We're not. So, ladies and gentlemen, the fact of the matter is that the three military men knew something about the death of the cops because they are potential perpetrators who turn around to be, witnesses to the case. But what were they doing at this particular spot at this particular time is not established. But these are people who have weapon expertise, and they are the weapon expertise who were within that particular, vicinity at this point in time when this case was, happening. And then the vehicle that was actually, photoed there belongs to a police officer. And this vehicle number plate was seen all over the world, and also it was something that Mama Jabi, when she was recording Usain Bojang, Al Hussein Dari was reading the same number plate to Usain Bojang, claiming that and then you turn around to say that audio is lost. We have it, and the defense will bring it, and then no matter you judge or whatever you people want to do it. But it is clear to every Gambian that the police were killed by their own men. You don't care about this machinery judges, or you claim to say, big killing. Nobody gives. We don't care about whatever you people want. We know basically that this is exactly what the state staged. So the truth will come out in this case, no matter how you also and which is very obvious to everyone. So Usain Bojang left Bruford, did not go to the paramilitary checkpoint in Ghana town where he could kill a dozen or have a dozen like Sankari alleged, but just to go to traffic light and kill a Pate Jallo. You know why? Because a Pate Jallo was on the station at the Suguda traffic light, not Bruford PIU. Why didn't he go to another place? So a Pate Jallo, as the UDP were complaining, is a coincidence? So the entire script of Sankare was a mistake? No, it was basically a fabricated script, which the government knew very well that it was. But it was their own script, and they know the script has failed. And they brought in 13 witnesses. Nobody could tell you anything tangible. Usainu had heavy telephone traffic. Now, to a point that even the defense have to turn to be the prosecution, to be the investigators, to go and be getting call logs to verify that these military officers were talking to each other, because Iman Sonkela own criminal ol muta. Sa intolla fong balla criminal ol expose kang because atolle tamuit. Atolle bula do kola. Alme bula la fenna simply because of politics. Alme bula la fenna na mange political. You would jump and tell us, oh, Jammeh is very evil here and there. But Jammeh, with his evil, he never banned the United Democratic Party. He never had to kill police officers to ban the United Democratic Party. You did the same thing in Faraba. You did a militarization in Faraba, and then you killed 3 folks in there. In Gunjur, you arrested the dudes and then you put them in prison. In Fonyi, you killed Haruna and other people there. In Lamen, a girl at high school was killed with a brother in the house, but till date you cannot tell us who killed them. But all of a sudden you kill 2 police officers and you jump and you said it's Usain Bojang and he's a rebel here and there. And you still have the guts to come out and be facing the public and saying something. And why NPP munatin nakatol balojan ni molko who killed the cops? Munat na katol balojan. For me, a police will fatal man lafi walan. Amunali alon nakala molle police olfa. Wala nakal balojan. Wala nakal malafi ko ka moy who killed the cops. Albo moy la janne. Albo moy la janne fo ila yo medin. You would hear it. So we're not staying that long over here, but the fact of the matter is that all we wanted to say is that the 3 police officers, the 3 military men knew something about the killing of the cops, because these are the military experts who were at the scene. The vehicle that was actually, photoed at the scene belongs to a police officer who also has access to a weapon. These people all confirm their presence at this particular scene, except for the police officer who needs to be investigated to know if he was at that scene. All of these people, what were they doing at that scene? It was also confirmed that the 3 military officers were talking to 1 police commissioner prior to that. What were they all coordinating? It's also confirmed that Ibuso was the one going to pick his independent witness who said he came through the back gate into anti-crime at midnight. Sankare has disowned his entire script and said the police told him. DIG So is no longer saying anything about the case. He's traumatized by it because he knew everything he said is actually demystified, and people knew basically that he lied, that he knew something or he masterminded this particular activity. The travel of the IG at the time was not a coincidence. The stationing of these paramilitary officers at this particular spot was not a long-term thing. It was done on purpose. killing of a Pate Jallo was not a coincidence. It was the same name that the UDP were complaining about. So it was actually staged. Saying Usainu Bojang works at Brikama Area Council wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate. Saying Usainu Bojang was in Hudi at the UDP court case was not a mistake. It was deliberate. To say that he actually, was hired by a political establishment here and there and was lodged in a motel was not a mistake, was not a mistaken identity, was not whatever. It was a deliberate intention to ban the United Democratic Party, and that was the script of the government. Now, after knowing that your script has been exposed, why do you still keep this dude in prison? For what reason? That is what we want to know. Now, after your 13 witnesses, the only two things you would still, or what the judge would now say, oh yeah, I would not allow the no case to answer to get on. I would ensure that the defense comes in, is to say that what Mama said and what Al-Husseini said collaborated. But then even their audio alone, their audio that they recorded the dude in, already cleared out the entire case. I'll send you prolong nya. If you want, don't bring it in October, bring it next year, October. But we will continue to talk about it. And the fact of the matter is that everybody in our community can attest that Usainu is not a rebel. That is enough for the dude. And with everything that you people have brought to court, everybody now in the country knew that something did not go right. They know basically that the regime is responsible for the killing of the cops. You people killed over 72 children for your, medical negligences. Alma worry walla. Your corruption scandals, too low oil here and there, nobody is even talking about all of those. But you even have the guts to go to a point that you can even kill serving police officers, and you want everybody to be quiet about it. And then you are taking these retirees and promoting them in the police force to continue perpetuating this evil, heinous act in our system. We will continue to talk about it until that day where justice would prevail. So ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much. We hope to be back here. The fact is that they think they can prolong it and then we'll get to a point that we'll just be silent about it. That will never happen. Even if it takes us to take day offs here and there, we would do it to talk about this case until everybody knew that something did not go right here. That the real perpetrators of this crime who are pretentiously serving as witnesses would definitely be arrested, prosecuted, and incarcerated for the criminal activities they've done. Because it's obvious to all of us that these folks definitely killed the cops and they knew something about it, and they definitely need to pay for the the heinous crime they've done. Because serving officers who did nothing simple. The only crime of Pate Jallo is to have the same name as Pate Jallo that the UDP was complaining about. That is just it. Nothing else. The only crime of Usainu is to go to Casamas and all of a sudden somebody introduce you to a so-called Gambian Marabu woman. For her to just look at you and frame you in something she knew nothing about because she wants a 1 million bounty. But how can you even give 1 million to your informer and give 100,000 to the people that were killed? Does it even make logical sense? And then we think we have a government. But anyway, we'll talk to you another time. There is nothing that we are backing down on this until justice is served. Thank you very much.